Hey, everybody. Welcome to Marketing Land Live. This is episode number 18. Today is Friday, June 17th. It's a little after 12 noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific on the West Coast. My name is Matt McGee. I am, I guess, the closest thing we have to a host here on the show every week. We are talking about the week that was in online marketing with the marketingland.com team and friends. We're here every Friday at this time, and we have a lot of stuff. Boy, a lot of stuff to go over this week with Apple and Microsoft and LinkedIn, and then some ad news and some other stuff going on. So why don't we just dive right in with the introductions first, and in alphabetical order, it would be, let's see, Ginny, Greg, and then Danny. So you know the routine, right?
Yeah.
Right? Who you are, where you are, what you do. And then today's question of the day is, do you still read any printed newspapers?
Okay. Ginny Marvin. I'm in Portland, Maine. I cover search ads and advertising for Search Engine Land and Marketing Land. I do not read the paper unless I'm at my parents' house. But I do get still a couple of paper magazine subscriptions still. The rest are all digital.
Okay.
So yeah. That's it.
Just at your parents'
But I haven't gotten a paper. I haven't been a paper subscriber for at least 10 years. I would
10 years. Wow. Okay. All right, Greg, you're up.
Oh, but I've been digital subscriber.
Yeah,
for
understood.
That long. Yeah. Just have to make it clear that I do read.
Yeah, we understand. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah.
So I'm Greg Sterling, and I write about mobile, local, public policy, and some other stuff for Marketing Land, Search Engine Land. And I'm in Oakland, California, and I'm very sad about the Warriors now having to do a Game 7 and possibly Cleveland beating them, given the momentum of the series. But we'll see what happens. I subscribe to two printed newspapers, the New York Times and the San Francisco Chronicle, which I recently resubscribed to after not having subscribed to it for more than a decade. And by the time those papers are delivered, I only get Sunday. On Sunday, I have read everything online. So as a practical matter, I sort of flip through them and then put them in the recycling.
So why do you get them in paper?
Because I want to support them on one level, and because that was the cheapest option for the Times, I think, to get the paper as a way to get access to the digital.
Yeah.
And I subscribe to the Chronicle, the local paper, because I find that events online there's just no good source of events information online, and it's just remarkable that that's the case.
That's true for my area as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Danny, you're up.
My name is Danny Sullivan. I am the founding editor of Marketing Land and Search Engine Land. I forgot the other things I was supposed to say other than the newspaper stuff.
Where you are?
I'm in Newport Beach, California, and thus I take our local paper, the Los Angeles Times here. I get it Thursday through Sunday because there was some deal 18 years ago that still makes sense for me to do, and I enjoy reading it, because I used to work for a newspaper and I like having printed paper. So I'll read it at lunch. It comes with my local paper, the Daily Pilot. And I just read it this morning, actually. I also take the Wall Street Journal, because right now they had a really good deal, which was like $99 for a year. So I'm like, yeah, duh. So I took that because that gives me my online access, and then it expired. So then they said, oh, now you have to pay $500 a year. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. How about you give me that $99 thing again? And they said, all right, we'll do that for 9 months or 6 months. I'm like, all right. So there I am.
Huh.
Yeah.
The Daily Pilot, is that like Newport Beach, that like really local?
Everything going on in Newport Beach, Costa Mesa, and Irvine, the greater central Orange County coastal area, except only Newport's in the coast. But we don't have enough news, so you kind of have to throw in Costa Mesa and Irvine.
I should say that I also subscribe to the Washington Post and the LA Times, but the digital only edition.
I would subscribe to more things, and I got a post I'll work up on this at some point, but it was like, I would love to subscribe to more papers, but they all want to charge you so much. And like, I was just fantasizing, and this is one of the fantasies that I have. I know they'll be different from the fantasies a lot of people have, but in my fantasy, I'm at a conference and Mark Thompson from the New York Times is there, and I'm saying to him, hey, why is it costing me less money to get your newspaper every day than if I just wanted to subscribe to it digitally and have it on my, I don't know, iPad and iPhone? Because the New York Times, I actually have a spreadsheet that calculates all the different costs that are involved. Because you can have it on your smartphone, or you can have it on your iPad, or you can have digital data. You have all these things, and it's actually cheaper just to take it 7 days a week and have it literally delivered to you, hand flown to me from New York, and get the digital with it. So part of me is like, you know what? I think you need to. I want to support journalism. I am a journalist, but I think that you're kind of crazy in some of the pricing out there. But
that's true. That's true.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Matt, apropos of this, there was a big new State of the Media study from Pew. If you guys are interested in checking that out, talks about newspapers.
Yeah, I
and
think
readership.
I saw a couple tweets about it last night, but was busy focusing on other things, so did not click through. But I did see that was out. So, okay, so
I do.
Go ahead, Jenny.
I was just gonna say I do pick up. We have a neighborhood newspaper that died and then came back that you can pick up at stores around the neighborhood. But so that is my paper version.
You probably steal it from other people's driveways, right? Jenny?
Well, no, it's free. It's free. It's an ad-supported West End news. Literally one little neighborhood of Portland, Maine.
You know what's interesting about newspapers. I know, Matt, you want to move on, and I'm sorry.
I just like to introduce myself at some point.
I believe, especially the audience listening to us on the podcast now, that us talking about dead media formats is good.
Readership is going through the roof right now.
I would say
called.
two things about print newspapers. I would say that there's something important about print from a branding perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So like when Newsweek went online only, all the Public Christian Science Monitor, all the publications that have gone U.S. News online only, their brands have virtually disappeared from public consciousness. So there's something important there about having a print presence for brand. And then in the sort of digital world, which is increasingly cluttered and chaotic, there's a way that print can actually kind of cut through some of that noise for advertisers now, even though only old people are reading print, right? Old people like us, I should say.
That's right.
Except for Ginny, who's not old.
No. Not old.
Okay, I'll introduce myself now that we're 25 minutes into the show.
You need to choose your questions more
I know,
carefully,
right?
Matt.
Gosh. What is 7 + 8? That'll be next week's question. We'll get right through it quick. So I'm Matt McGee. I am the editor-in-chief of, I think I said that already, the editor-in-chief of Marketing Land and Search Engine Land. I am in Tri-Cities, Washington, and the reason I had that question is because just within the last couple months, we stopped subscribing to the print of our local paper. I do read it online, but I too, I think, Jenny, you mentioned magazines. I too am a big fan of magazine readership because we just subscribed to Time within the last 3-4 months. And I'll tell you, I've learned more in 3-4 months of reading Time about what's going on in the world than I ever get from Facebook and Twitter and all that. There's something, I think there's something about the weekly news cycle in Time, you go deeper into stuff than,
Yeah. And I'll throw in a plug for The Week is an awesome print publication. It's the best, I think, because it pulls content from multiple sources and packages it really nicely.
Awesome. We'll get them as a sponsor next week. All right, let's get into the show. So for those who are new to the show, this is, we're here every Friday, 12 noon Eastern time on Blab is when we record live. We are now also officially a podcast. This is, a very exciting news. You can find us on iTunes. Just do a search for Marketing Land. You can find us on Google Play Podcast. It's Google Play. Go into the music section, do a search for Marketing Land, then scroll down. You'll find the podcasts. And so that's very exciting. So people now can listen via their favorite audio device. And why don't we just dive in and we'll get into the roundtable segment of the show. As I said, there's a lot going on. I think, why don't we just start with Apple? Should we do that? That was sort of big in the news earlier this week. I know Danny and Greg, you guys did a lot of the coverage from there. I don't even know. I'm not sure where. Well, why don't we just start with sort of what wasn't announced, which was that there's no hardware. That I think they sort of moved away from doing hardware at the developers conference, haven't they?
That's right. It's the September cycle where they announce the new hardware. I had forgotten that, but that's exactly right. So the June tends to be pretty software, well, exclusively about software.
All right. So what was the biggest news then this week? Is it I guess the platformization of everything that like it seems like they're opening up what Maps, Message, Siri for developing.
Yes, I would say that's pretty interesting stuff. I mean, they're being forced to by competitors, but that it's pretty interesting now. Those all three of those, in theory, will be able to be infused with third-party content and transactional capabilities, right? So, hey Siri, make a dinner reservation, or do that from Maps. That was the example given on stage. And iMessage has a lot of, that's a response to Facebook. And Gboard to some degree,
and also to the Amazon, to Alexa, right? Because
yep,
I talk to mine, and I'm quite often using third party. They call them skills, right? Is what they call them on Amazon, and so it's sort of playing catch. And we assume that, or did Google announce that they're also going to have developer stuff for home?
Yes. Okay. They announced a bunch of existing integrations. I don't have the list in front of me, but they had a bunch of third party, Uber and OpenTable and a bunch of others that were on board already.
So to some level, there it's a, I don't know, it's sort of table stakes at this point, isn't it, Greg? To have this sort of stuff be open for developers and third parties. Apple's resisted for a while.
Well, table stakes implies that the market is a little bit. Oh, my picture has frozen. You probably can't. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can.
We can hear you.
Okay. All right. My picture froze there for a second. Table stakes to me implies that the market is a little bit further along than it is.
Okay.
But you're right. I think that the competition is forcing the market in a certain direction, and it's interesting to think about it. What it means for search and what it means for discovery. There have been a number of articles. By Porna, Virgi, Microsoft, among others, about voice search and optimizing for voice search and things like that. So we're really moving into a really interesting and potentially exciting new area around search and using your voice to transact and to discover things. And
then one of the things I think, Danny, you covered on Search Engine Land, that Siri itself is coming to the desktop. Yes.
Yes. How exciting! Soon you'll be.
You sound thrilled by it.
Speaking to my computer or my desktop, not that exciting to me, but apparently it is to lots of other people because they do it on Windows. But yeah, you're going to be able to talk to your Mac and say, Siri, can you search for something? And then when it doesn't give you the right answer, you can say, Siri, can you Google that? And then it will actually go out to Google. So I think the bigger takeaway from that is that everybody's getting these personal assistants. Like Microsoft has their Cortana assistant. And as these things start to grow and develop and understand who you are, then it makes sense that you want them to be on your laptop or your desktop as well as you have them on your phone. And so the idea that you can tap into Siri and do these kinds of searches, it's great. The significant thing is that right now, if you're on a Mac, your search is really spotlight search. You click on the magnifying glass, you type in a search. It may suggest some third-party content, maybe on a good day if the moon's in alignment with Mars. But, for the most part, it's just searching your files on your computer, which is great. But, something like Cortana, when you're using that on a Windows computer, it's like, hey, I searched for all this stuff, and here's some great Bing stuff for you, too. Which is sometimes useful, sometimes not. So now Siri will actually be able to go on, and one of the examples they showed was, you typed in pictures of something, I don't know, flowers or whatever, and it like suggested images that came back, and those had actually come from Bing. So it is interesting. It's a little more erosion of Google on the desktop, because if you are somebody who lives the default world on a Mac, you would have bought your Mac. Safari would have come with the Mac. You would have been using Safari, and then it would have been doing searches through Google. And now if you start doing the Siri search on your Mac that you didn't change for whatever reason, then it would go to Bing, and you're not going to get to Google unless you say, "Hey Siri, I'd really like you to search Google for this type of thing," and then it will do that.
So I mean, how much, you talked about a little bit of an erosion to Google, and we've seen, right, over the last, year or two that like ComScore, which, I mean, we can have a debate on, how reliable that is.
Oh,
but
let's debate it now. It's a piece of crap. And let's not even report the numbers anymore. And I'm sorry if you're tuning in, ComScore people, but when more than the searches are happening on mobile devices and you're still stuck in, well, we only measure desktop, we don't even know what your numbers mean. But sure, let's leave that discussion for another day.
So just using that number anyway, because it's about the only number we have in terms of death. So, a couple years ago, Google was at like 67, 68. Now it's down to like 63, 64, I think. Is that because of Cortana and Siri using Bing and Alexa using Bing and things like that? I mean, if when Siri comes to the desktop, is Google going to drop down to 62?
Well, that would be my guess, is that you're seeing a little bit of erosion, especially erosion because of the increased searches that are happening on desktop through Cortana. The difficulty is, I don't know whether those searches that you do on Cortana are for things like, where's my files? And then it sends off a search to Bing as well. And you might not ever even click on those searches, but ComScore sees a search, so it counts it as if it's a search, right? So, but that would be my feeling, is that the reason you see this is because the pie of searches on desktop, is changing so that you're getting more of this stuff that's coming off of Cortana particularly. But then, so it could erode. And then I think, and Greg, I think you wrote about this, the overall number of desktop searches is also dropping. So not only is Google getting a slightly less share of it, but the amount that's there is less. Although I think they're probably easily countering it, because I think they have much higher percentage of mobile searches, and the mobile searches, I'm pretty sure, are increasing.
Yeah, I mean, the Google has like 90+% of mobile search share in the U.S. and probably globally as well. It may be even higher, like their other numbers. The search numbers on the desktop, if you take the just ComScore, are flat, basically. So
I'm a desktop Cortana user and use it
Jenny.
quite a bit, but
Welcome.
It is. I'm just making out with my coffee now. No, I do use it quite a bit. The funky thing is that I am typically a Chrome user, and Cortana links into Edge, so then I'm, doing the Bing on Edge and Google on Chrome, which it's usually not a big deal. But the other thing and I don't know, I know that Edge usage is teeny, but I do think it's interesting how they've essentially hidden the URL bar on Edge, so that everything, unless you know that it's there, everything comes across as a search. But anyway, but I do use Cortana quite a bit on the desktop, and then Google or Siri on the phone.
All right. So, and then the interesting and then of course, when Google comes out with Home, then obviously that's going to potentially increase Google search, maybe take away some of what Bing has gained over the last, the last couple of years with Siri, and then with the Alexa. So, all right, worth watching. Should we move on to topic number 2, which was the big news earlier this week, Microsoft buying LinkedIn. I woke up whatever morning that was, and I was like, what the what?
God,
and
I woke up and I thought, I'm glad Jenny wrote that story. Great. I don't want to touch that thing.
It's one of the good. It's one of the Danny. It's one of the hidden good things about you and I being on the. Well, and Greg's up so early, but I was going to say good things about being on the West Coast.
Woo.
Is that
long-term planning, baby?
The East Coast crew and Greg, who is up with the East Coast crew, gets to cover all this stuff as it happens. So, I mean, I don't know, huge surprise to me, but when you look at it, I think a smart move for Microsoft to sort of marry their business productivity with their business network, which is, I guess, exactly how they pitched it. Then, right? Jenny, you want to take on this one?
I mean, I guess they're pitching it as the marriage of the professional graph and the professional social graph, right? Do I have those terms right? Anyway, so it's all of, Microsoft's been sitting on troves and troves of enterprise data, and LinkedIn obviously is the social network for B2B. So the idea is blending those two together will be lovely synergies for all, from the cloud business. They actually, Microsoft and LinkedIn actually, I'm not sure they talked about advertising at all in any of their, in the deck, the acquisition deck that they published, there was, a little note on a few of the slides about ad revenue. And one of those was around the LinkedIn feed that would be sort of, I guess, spruced up to be the daily enterprise social feed. And then Cortana was mentioned and maybe something else, but it was really sort of subtle on that front. Really all the talk was more around the cloud business. But there's certainly, huge potential for the ad side.
It's Microsoft's largest acquisition ever is another thing that's noteworthy about it.
You mean, isn't it largest that Satya's done one? I think they've had larger.
26 billion?
Then 26 billion?
So.
I don't think
so.
Okay, maybe I was confused.
Well,
you can fact check us, Danny.
Instant fact checking. Well, it's worth noting that the Yahoo acquisition, had it gone through a number of years ago under Steve Ballmer and Carol Bartz, would have been something like 42 billion, I think.
40 plus.
Yeah. So somebody's pointing out, eBoy's pointing out in the comments that Microsoft has made a whole bunch of acquisitions in the past that have gone nowhere, arguably. Certainly Nokia is one of those.
Yeah. Well, and I know on the Bloomberg interview, Satya said they've learned lessons from their past acquisition mess ups and are going to handle this very differently, I think is what he said, very differently. One of which is keeping it as LinkedIn's, was hands off.
One of the interesting things about this, from my point of view, is the LinkedIn perspective, right? So it makes, on paper, this all makes sense for Microsoft, in ways that you just described, Ginny. But, I think that LinkedIn gets out from under the pressure of being a public company. I mean, a lot of people are going to make a bunch of money off of this, and of course, that's a motivation for everybody. But they don't have to answer to the public markets anymore, which I think is one of their motivations here. Just get out of that.
Because those discussions weren't going very well lately.
Jenny, do you want to go into you did your article on what it means for advertisers, and then we had a couple other really excellent columns, I thought. Janet Driscoll Miller did one, and Sahil Jane did one. Just really excellent columns, and we'll include the links to those in the show notes when I post on Monday with the replay video, et cetera, all that sort of stuff. But do you want to talk about sort of, for the folks that are watching or listening that are in, online advertising, what the opportunity is here, what it could mean?
Yeah, so it could mean a lot of different things. I mean, for one, just starting with the data overlay. So Microsoft has talked to some extent about leveraging the Azure data that it has on enterprises and enterprise users for Bing ads, but that has never actually been realized at this point. So this could just kind of propel that a little bit further, and being able to either merge some of the Azure data with LinkedIn data, or tap into the LinkedIn data, which is, essentially, who those people are on LinkedIn, which is what Bing Ads does not have. That's the search intent. And so you can couple who these people are with their search intent for ad targeting. So that's one kind of the big thing that can happen. The other thing is there's more reach with having LinkedIn, lynda.com, if they have tapped into that, and SlideShare. And LinkedIn has display advertising, which Bing has pretty much, or Microsoft has essentially outsourced to AOL. And it would be interesting to see if there's any sort of tie-in on that front, whether they either decide to go direct and build up another sort of display network of some sort, or if they tap AOL for that, which is of course owned by Verizon and has a whole other giant mass of data. So it's interesting to kind of just go down that rabbit hole of thinking where they could make, cross pollinations there. But I think that's obviously going to be farther down the road. That retargeting is one thing, and then obviously having a social that Microsoft hasn't had, other than Yammer, I guess. I don't know if that's worth mentioning at this point even. And it's really sort of, it cuts out a niche for them on the B2B side that no one really owns, and now they've just been able to, gives them an opportunity to double down on. It's a huge market. So they kind of can say they own it, and if they can make the data and the targeting work, then they could bring in a lot more marketers and a lot more email, LinkedIn sign-up spam.
I agree. They become the premier enterprise marketing channel now.
They sort of. They can say they sort of own the B2B.
They own the professional graph, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I own the food graph.
Yeah, and the mobile piece is interesting too. So, like we kind of touched on before, Bing's mobile market share is basically non-existent compared to Google. LinkedIn has, they said last quarter, they had 50% of their traffic's now coming through mobile. I think 56% of their ad revenue is coming from sponsored content, which is the native ad unit that goes. I think it's the only one they have on mobile at this point. So it's working. It's generating money there, and so there's gets them on that front as well.
All right, that's and then also, I'm going to mention too, Bloomberg just reported, I think it was last night, that Salesforce was quite interested in LinkedIn, and that would have been a potentially very good marriage.
That would have been a better marriage in some respects.
Yeah.
Well, and Microsoft was interested in Salesforce.
Well, that's true. Good point. I hadn't even thought of that.
And the hip bone is connected to
the dominoes. The dominoes fall in different ways sometimes. So, all right. Shall we move on to topic number 3? I think we're ready for that. Topic number 3, and this was a story I did earlier this week, which was a Facebook VP, the VP of Europe, Middle East, and Africa, whose name escapes me now, and I apologize to her for that. She was speaking at a Fortune conference in London, and they said, tell us what you think Facebook is going to look like in 5 years. And she said, well, it'll be definitely mobile, and then, quote, probably all video. And the host gal was like, all video? She was like, yeah, all video, and started talking about how video is the way to tell stories, and video gets attention, all that sort of stuff. So I'll toss it out to you guys. Do you agree or disagree with her prediction?
Well, Zuckerberg said that himself. I mean, Zuckerberg has said that on more than one occasion himself, that it's going to be, substantially all video. Do you agree? Well, more and more video, I think, is a no-brainer. Whether it's all video is another question, and I will stop using it if it's just all video.
Danny?
No, I think that there's content that you want to share that doesn't require a video and doesn't need a video. If I want to comment about the shooting in Orlando, I'm not necessarily going to say, oh, here, I just made a little video about it, or I found a video about it. I may just want to just share it. Or if I take a picture of a sunset, I might just be happy with the picture of the sunset. So
there you go.
Also, I just don't, I know Facebook, we love video. We get it. You guys love video, and you change newsfeed to shove the video down our throats, and that's really convenient, so you can make a lot more money off the commercials and everything showed there. But video takes time to consume. And I only have so much time.
Yeah.
So if you
And create.
and so if you think my whole feed is going to be video, guess what? I've just read a lot less of my feed. Because I can go through and find out, oh, look, they graduated. Oh, look, they got married. Oh, look, and then, oh, look, this is going on here. And, you can see a lot of stuff. And what, I actually still use Facebook sometimes to actually see what's going on with people I know and my friends, right? So I don't know why I did that. This on my lap. But so, yeah, if I've got video, it's like I'll probably still read the caption and then go past it. I already go past a lot of video now because I don't have time. I don't have time for your 10-second video. No, make it 5. What do you need 10 seconds for?
They should buy Vine and just have 6-second videos.
Well, I mean, a lot of this stuff is a response to Snapchat and it's a greed money thing, and it's also a response to what's going on, I think, with Snapchat.
Well, and I think that they definitely see the advertising potential here, and there's no doubt people like video. And you can also look over at something like YouTube, and Facebook thinks, great, well, now this is our chance to make a Facebook Live star or whatever. I'm going to go to VidCon next week, at least for a day. And last year it was all, YouTube, and now the stuff I've been getting from the 100 trillion people who want to do press outreach is all like, come check out this live thing, come out that live thing. So now it's all live. So, bye, Greg. Greg just disappeared.
We just lost Greg.
So, this whole, it's live, it's coming to you. I don't know. Part of me feels like it's still a bit faddish, and that I'm not saying it's not useful, but I think that at some point, if BuzzFeed wants to do a live blowing up of a watermelon with rubber bands, maybe they won't get as many people as they got the first time because, I don't know, there's a lot of other things to watch.
And they're also they're pushing video, but they're also pushing, right? They're real heavy and interested in going after small business advertisers and your pages and your advertising, all this sort of stuff. And I think they're crazy if they think that all the small businesses in the world are going to suddenly start creating video to promote whatever it is that they're promoting. My wife, real estate agent, she and a friend do one real estate video per week. And to think that every one of her posts is going to be, a video is just, I think they're kind of crazy on that front.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad we all agree on that.
And we're right. Yeah. I mean,
then we are right. Facebook doesn't know.
So right. No, about. I mean, the amount of billions that we collectively generate from our expertise and smartness dwarfs. Anyway, so what's next?
Yeah.
Topic number 4. Still have to do those signs. Ginny, you covered this, and I wasn't sure if we should do this in the lightning round or if we should do an actual topic about this, but I did kind of want to talk about it, and it was your story regarding the Google changing the little labeling on in its search results.
The headline should have been, I'm sorry, but the headline should have been green is the new yellow.
I thought
it was...
Oh. Rewrite it for me, Danny.
No. I mean for later on. No, because that wouldn't have been very good SEO.
And for those who don't know, so they changed it used to say ad in a little yellow, icon of sorts. Now they changed it to green, and we've discussed this before about, are they doing enough to, indicate the difference between ads and non-ads and all this sort of stuff. And I don't know. I think it was actually better when it was yellow. It stood out more to me. Maybe I'm the only one.
Right. Well, so you're right. The green is the exact same color as the display URL now. So it sort of blends in. Google is quick to say that they've studied.
Of course they did.
Reaction and found that there was no further conflation of ads and organic listings than there was with yellow. So maybe no one knows what ads and organic are anyway. And so where can you go? You can't go down anymore? No, I don't know. But they, quick to say that. I do think to me also, it's easier to see that yellow rather than the green. The yellow labels are what rolled out in sometime maybe the fall of 2013, and that is what replaced the shading that had been behind the ads on the top line. So that's where these things have evolved from shading, clear block of ads to a little label that now is the same color as the URL. I will say though, I mean, it is worth pointing out that if you go to Bing and you go to Yahoo, the Google actually looks miles ahead of those two in the way that they are doing ad labeling. So I would say neither of them are particularly great. And, you know, Google is a step above or a number of steps above the other two. But
I just know that when I used to be in the business of designing websites, you would have a sort of, there's a color chart, there's a color wheel, I guess is what it is. And so if you're building a web, and the main colors are up here and up here, a blue and a maroon or something like that, and you wanted something to stand out and be noticeable, then you chose something down from the other side of the color wheel that complemented.
But I mean, they don't want to stand out. They just want you to click on it.
See, there we go. That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
Jenny, so I'm fascinated. I need to go back and do a follow-up thing. I was
just thinking the same thing.
I want the Google Ads color wheel. Like, I don't care the disclosure. I just want to know the color. Because here's the thing. It's like,
there is no color in the other. It's literally only green at this point.
In the past, we had yellow. And I could swear we had a color before that.
Not on the label. We had colors, different colors in the shading. So they did yellow, they did green, they did blue.
I want those colors. And I want all the colors. Just want the color, like the Google Money color palette. Because here's the thing that also gets me. It's like every time they do one of these announcements, it's like, oh yeah, our research has shown that whatever. And it's like, but you went to the yellow because, and so like, do Google AdWords, is it like a fashion thing? Like, should they be walking down the red carpet today modeling the latest in green is this ad from Google designed by computer algorithms and machine learning. Green is the new yellow, and it's going to be, anyway.
No, I know.
So those of you that are listening on the podcast, you need to find the video replay of this because you have to see what Danny was just doing to go along with the audio.
Oh, by the way, I did tweet the whole green is the new yellow. And just so that you know, that makes hashtag get me, which I think is awesome.
There you go.
So
instead of
there we are.
Ointenba.
It's not exactly. I can't think of that orange is the new black. Oh, here comes Greg in yellow.
Right.
So uncool. Jenny's in green. We have colors on the Blab channel for our things.
Yeah.
All right. Greg,
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but we can't see you.
That's because black is the new black. No, I'm having just real connection / stability problems, but you can hear me at least.
We can hear you just fine. So that's just fine. Greg, did you want to? We were talking about the green labeling on the Google Ads and the search results. Did you want to add anything to that before we move on to topic number 5?
No, I do not.
You're good. Okay. All right. So topic number 5, and again, another one. If I didn't know if we should do it in lightning round or round table. Danny, I think Barry actually wrote this story, but you covered it last week as well. And it was the whole, and we'll try not to get too political here, but it was the whole kerfluffle over Google autocomplete and accusations that it favors Hillary. And this is sort of, and it's not just a political thing, right? Like there's been, Google has been, it's like the most misunderstood thing that Google does, I would say.
And by the way, if Google's taking crap over this, good, because you deserve it so bad for wiping out a whole Friday, including Friday night for me. All right. And I'm sorry for PR because I know that you had to work that late as well, but you need to get it up the channel. So like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I hear an echo. Anyway, I was trying to keep going through it. I'll fight through it. 2 or 3 weeks ago, suddenly it was like, wow, if you try to search for crooked Hillary, Google doesn't suggest it when you type in CR, but and that's Google like trying to stop, I don't know, people from discovering crooked Hillary information. Because as you know, if you started typing CR in hopes of doing a search for Crooked Hillary and Google doesn't suggest it, you will not continue to do that search. You'll stay on the CR and be unable to type in the rest of the thing that you probably weren't expecting Google to suggest in the first place. But anyway, so they turn out, and this whole thing goes on and on and on. And so I'm like trying to research it and like what's going on here. And Google's not giving any straight answer about it other than to say, no, we didn't. Well, first, Google's just said nothing. So I wrote an article following on an article that Vice's Motherboard had did. Saying Google has no comment about this. Google won't explain this really bizarre thing. So that caused Google enough to say, oh, yeah, that doesn't really look good. Okay, so here's a statement. We didn't do anything to favor a candidate. We wouldn't do that. So like, what happened? Well, no, we won't talk about that. We just will tell you we won't do it. So then that week goes by. By the way, what was happening was Google's algorithms have changed so that they will not suggest negative things about people if they think it's a negative thing that you're searching. So for whatever reason, things like crooked and Hillary is being interpreted as like crooked Hillary Clinton. And sometimes if you type in other things, they might not realize it's a person, and it depends on what the negative stuff is. But their algorithm has evolved in a way that they try not to suggest negative things about people, which is a great thing, right? It's something 5 years ago, I was like, hey, people are concerned about autocomplete. It would be really cool if maybe you just didn't suggest negative things about people. And then that'd be awesome.
Well, and they've had numerous legal
I was going to
issues
say
on this, right?
it's a libel thing,
right?
That they've gotten into.
So this has kind of evolved, but they actually have never actually come out and said it's been part of the algorithm. And when you go through their help pages, as I was doing, there's no information about it. So fast forward to last week, I think it was, and someone decided to do a video on how when you search for like, I can't even remember what it was, Hillary email or whatever, it wasn't suggesting it. And they did this whole thing like, and this is proof of how Google, look, we have a video, so it must be true. Which prompted Matt Cutts to go on a former head of Google spam team, go on a one-person crusade to like say, no, this is not it. This is not it. And so, oh no, everybody's here. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, I'm gonna try and do something to get my
okay.
I'm gonna try and okay.
I'll try to keep going. You also cannot hear the giant truck that's outside my house, but I don't know what that is. But I'll just and my earphones. Sorry to go on a segue here, but I'm having to use one of the kids' earphones, and they turned out I couldn't hear because they don't actually clean their earphones. That's kind of disgusting. I'm like, oh, that's why I can't. Anyway. So they did this whole video, and then Google finally comes out and goes, hey, you might have seen something out there. Just to let you know, the reason you don't see this is because we don't do these negative things about people as part of our algorithm now. The same thing that they were telling me the week before, but they couldn't go on the record. A week later, they're like, oh, I guess we better talk about it now. So the summary is Google autocomplete suggests a lot of things for all sorts of reasons. It's very unlikely they're actually overtly trying to change things to favor a particular candidate, because it would be just a thing that people would totally spot and hit them for in the way that people think that they already are, but that they aren't, because then you can go through and find other examples where it's clearly not working. And the reality is that they've made these changes to auto-suggest, and they have not come forward and explained much more about how it works. And they really should do that so people know. But the biggest thing around all this, and then I'll shut up, but the most important thing goes back to what I said before. All this Strumendrang, is that the word I'm trying to think of? Because I failed German several times, seriously. But, anyway, all this upset over the auto-suggest is like a sideshow. The question is, when I type in Donald Trump or I type in Hillary Clinton, is Google messing with those results? Not, they did this obscure suggestion for Crooked Hillary, and that was really going to skew the person who was planning to type Crooked Hillary and hoping to get some unbiased, impartial information about Hillary. Like, okay, they probably were going to continue the search anyway. And what did they get? And by the way, what they get is information about why Donald Trump wants to call her Crooked Hillary, or why somebody wants to call Donald Trump Dictator Trump, or whatever they want to call him. He doesn't really have a good nickname. But so yeah, it's the search results that you care about, not the suggestions.
Wow. I didn't know it was like a wind up there, and
now
there
that's
he goes.
a rant.
I was up till like on that 2 Friday nights ago. It was like 11:45 p.m. That was my evening. It was like, oh, my son's like, should we watch an Arrow? Yeah, let's watch an Arrow. Watch Arrow. Oh wait, email call. Let's stop. Pause it here. I know we don't know what's happening with. Actually, we're catching up. I think on Flash. No, it might have been back in Arrow. We don't know why it's happening. Maybe the Black Canary will be all right. I don't know. We don't know what's going on with Felicity. Is Oliver and Felicity ever going to get back together? And then like, oh wait, hang on. I got to pause it. I got to find out what's going on with Google's Uber plan to elect Hillary and put her in office. Okay, come on back. It's all right now. Looks like Thea's back with that guy. So,
you know what?
Arrow's really good. You should totally watch Arrow.
The thing that I want to know is when you type in fake moon landing, why they're concealing the reality of that situation.
Well, I'm doing that now.
Yeah.
I'm doing that now. Fake. When I type in fake, it doesn't even suggest fake moon landing. It suggests fake.
I haven't given anyone props, but I need to give Greg lots and lots of props for that. That was awesome. Yes, everyone right now is ignoring us, and they're searching fake moon landing.
Right.
My laptop's starting to burn now.
Yeah, mine does that. Mine does that too. All right, let's move on to the lightning round, and I think I'm just going to cut it down to. Oh my gosh, we're coming up to 50 minutes already. So let's just do one item from the lightning round. Which one do you want to do? Do you want to do the Facebook store visits, or do you want to do the Twitter and emojis?
Twitter and emojis is more fun. Facebook and store visits is more meaningful.
And there's our lightning round.
Must we choose?
Let's do them both.
All right, do them both. So I put store visits on top of the list.
What do you want to know?
Greg, you want to tackle that one? Give us your thought on. So the story was, I think Tim Peterson wrote it. Facebook putting maps in their ads, but then also doing more to measure store visits.
So Facebook is connecting online and offline. It's being done by Google with their own store visits thing. It's being done by Pinterest. It's being done by a bunch of mobile platforms now with various methodologies. It's a big deal. Facebook elevates the visibility of this with Google. Marketers want to know real world sales being driven or influenced by online media. It's something Facebook has been trying to do and experimented with for a long time. It's a very, very big deal.
Yeah.
How reliable is that when they try to connect that sort of stuff?
Well, it can be very reliable. There's an estimate calculation going on, but it provides a lot more visibility on what's happening in fact than, engagement, clicks, all these sort of traditional online metrics. But they also have a point of sale integration, which Google has experimented with as well. So they're getting, they're being able, and you can do that with custom audiences today as well. Ginny, you wanted to jump in there.
No, I was just going to say I agree. I think it's a really big deal, and I think it's going to be Google's been doing this for a while, and its purchases beta has been running for, I want to say, a couple of years now at this point. So it'll be interesting to see when they start to actually push this. And it seems like they are making much less hay and news out of this than Facebook has been able to. And obviously it's still in beta, so they can't. But it's that they haven't even said publicly that, yes, we're doing this in a more pronounced way than
Jason Spiro of Google did that on Twitter, but they haven't talked about it in a big PR oriented way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yes, and they have talked about it, but they haven't given it. So to me, I feel like from a PR standpoint, that Facebook is, I don't know, they get the attention more than Google's able to, and maybe that's because they
because the
strategy.
video the amount of video is growing in the feed, and that's what everybody really cares about.
Yes.
So let me say two additional things about this in the spirit of lightning round. One thing is that these moves, Pinterest, Google, a bunch of mobile players, Facebook, put pressure on everybody else to be able to deliver these kind of metrics, because if you can get them from one, you're going to want them from others. And so that means that this will accelerate the whole market trying to provide online to offline visibility. Also, the kinds of things that you can do with this offline data are really profound. You can retarget people based on their visits to your store online. You can optimize campaigns and add creative based on store visits or, in some cases, sales now. That's profound stuff in terms of digital marketing.
Yeah, well, and it will significantly impact how budgets get allocated. And so, yeah, there's big stakes there.
All right, last item on the lightning round. Another Tim Peterson story a couple days ago. Twitter is letting advertisers target their ads based on the emojis that you use. And I mean, when I saw that headline, my first thought was, wow, is nothing unable to be targeted for advertisers? And but I think Tim made a good point in his article that it's not unlike targeting a specific keyword.
I mean, it makes sense, actually. It makes sense in the sense of if I use the emoji for basketball and you missed understanding that meant basketball, you would think that Twitter would be smart enough to just say, like, yeah, if you see the emoji basketball and you've been targeting the keyword of basketball, include the emoji for it. But yeah. Although it's weird because you can only but it's weird on the other hand to just say, well, I only want to target people who are using this particular emoji, right? Like, it makes sense for me to say, if you see an emoji, understand what that word means, so that if I'm targeting that word, it's included. But no, I'm interested in people who like basketball, but only people who use the basketball emoji do I want. You give me somebody who types out b-ball or basketball or the basketball ring, I don't want them.
Right, but it does give those advertisers who want to expand their reach during, say, the whoever's playing that basketball game now that Greg's a fan of.
Cleveland and the Golden State Warriors.
Do not even care.
Yes. Okay. So they may not be using hashtags. They may not be using, anything other than like, wow, yay, go, with a bunch of emoji with the basketball in it. And during that time frame, you could say, I want to target anyone who says basketball, uses these hashtags, and uses basketball during this like 2 hours of the game. I don't know what it's really going to bring. I don't know what that scale does, but it does. I can see it in that context working.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, everything now is sponsorable. So, yeah. Okay. Anything else to add on that? Are we good? We cover the Twitter.
No, I think
Twitter emojis.
Well, I want to see when emojis come to more ads, and I
don't think.
Well, and then I assume you're going to be able to target those custom emojis at some point.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Right.
But I know, we've seen a couple of issues where people have tried to throw emojis into their display URLs in AdWords. And, up till now, you're not allowed to do that. Those get pulled down. But at some point, if a company starts usually using an emoji as a brand symbol at some point, Google's going to have to address that. It just even at that level, and we'll see maybe the emoji search. I don't know. There's lots more.
The new way. It's the new way to communicate.
What's crazy is how big a cultural phenomenon emojis have become.
Yeah. So I mean, it really is its own language, and so why shouldn't you be able to? As from the marketing standpoint, why shouldn't you be able to wrap campaigns around that? And whether that's from targeting or using emojis in your creative and things like that.
Yep,
By the
I
way,
agree.
remember,
All right.
just back on the emoji. I'm not going to let it go. Do you remember like how briefly Google let emojis appear in title tags on searches?
Yeah.
That's still working. They said they weren't going to do it, but then I see it working for our article that used it in Google News search results. So, interesting. I think the emoji's on the way back, and let's hope we get some animated GIF in search results too. I'm hoping.
That's for Gboard does the animated, right?
Yeah.
All right, we need to start wrapping things up. We've been going almost an hour. I think we're at like 55 minutes or so we need to wrap things up. So what's coming up next week? We have two of our big shows. We have SMX Social Monday and Tuesday. We have SMX Advanced Wednesday and Thursday, both of those in Seattle. Danny, you could say no, do you want to real quick give a sort of preview of maybe just the keynotes and who's speaking and all that sort of stuff? Or you don't want to?
Refuse.
Okay. I'll real quickly say that it's Facebook for Social Pro. Oh, I called it it's Social Pro.
Pro
I keep
has
calling
Facebook executive talking on the SMB front on search SMX Advanced. We have Gary, and then Ginny's up with a dual keynote the following day. Gary Ish, who is the new Matt Katz at Google. Except he's not the new Matt Katz. Right. Except he is. But he's not.
Right.
But he is.
But he is. But he's not. Yes. Yeah.
All right. So that's coming up next week for pretty much all of us. And then I should mention that we have the Landy Awards. The deadline to submit for the Landy Awards is June 30th. You can just go on Search Engine Land and you will find information about that at searchengineland.com/awards. I believe is the URL. And if it's not, we'll get that working any moment now. So the deadline for that is June 30th, and then the awards themselves are coming up in the fall at SMXE. So, all right, let's wrap things up. Where can people find you? Danny or Ginny, you go first. We'll go in the same order. Well, and Greg, I know you're pointing, but remember on the replay and on the podcast, people don't see that. So
tough. Too bad.
Ginny, where can people find you?
Ginny Marvin on Twitter with a G.
Okay,
I'm at
Greg?
G Sterling.
I'm Danny Sullivan with a G.
No, you're not.
No.
With a D.
I'd also like to apologize to all the people who tweeted me last week. Congrats on the Indy 500 anniversary.
Do you get that?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Sorry, it wasn't me. But
I think Barry Schwartz has a famous doppelganger too, doesn't he?
So does Monica Wright. She's a basketball player.
That's right, she does. I got to say, I'm the most famous Matt McGee, so there you go. There's a dentist in Tennessee that probably hates me because he can't rank for his name. So anyway, I can be found at Matt McGee on Twitter. Our website's at MarketingLand on Twitter, at SEngineLand. Facebook.com/marketingland, Facebook.com/searchengineland. And as I said earlier, we are now officially a podcast. We are on iTunes and in Google Play. So if you can't join us live here Friday, we would love for you to download the podcast, listen in, and please leave reviews on iTunes especially. It will help us expand and reach new people and make more friends and get more visibility that way. So we would love your reviews on iTunes. Jenny, Greg, Danny, thank you so much for being here. And Danny, good luck with the rest of the moving and that sort of stuff. I hope it goes well. And I will see all of you guys next week. Thanks to all who tuned in and who are tuning in on the replay or the podcast. We'll be back next week with another Marketing Land Live. Goodbye.